Morning sun cast faint light over the charred remains of the Torres family home. Maria stood at the edge of what used to be her sanctuary, taking in the devastation wrought by the fire. It had consumed their memories, their hopes, leaving only a twisted heap of ash and debris. The bitter scent of burnt wood filled the air, a constant reminder that everything they cherished had been reduced to nothing. She knelt amid the ruins, fingers brushing over a burned family photo lying in the ashes. The familiar faces smiled back at her, now shadowed by grief. Laughter and warmth flooded her mind, memories of family dinners, whispered bedtime stories, and the delightful chaos of her children playing in the living room. Now, all of that felt like a cruel mirage. Nearby, Javier held tightly to a letter from the insurance company. His brow was furrowed, shoulders heavy with the weight of unspoken concerns. "They're denying our claim," he finally said, his voice quiet, almost defeated. The words hung in the air, filling the space with a suffocating silence. "What do we do now?" Maria's voice trembled as she turned to him. Fear settled deep in her stomach, and she searched his eyes desperately for answers, but all she could see was uncertainty mirrored back. In the distance, Antonio and Lucia played quietly. Their shadows stretched long on the grass under the bright sun, but their smiles were absent. Antonio, once so full of ideas and imagination, had withdrawn into himself since the fire, while Lucia seemed lost in dreams that no longer felt reachable. "Mommy, can we go home?" Lucia's soft voice broke through the quiet, pulling on Maria's heartstrings. Tears welled in her eyes, and she knelt down, taking her daughter's hands. "We'll find a new place, sweetheart," she replied, though inside she felt a gnawing doubt. How could she bring them home when their foundation had crumbled? The air hung thick with silence, as if the world was joining them in mourning. Maria closed her eyes tightly, letting the wave of grief crash over her. For a fleeting moment, the despair felt insurmountable, a heavy fog threatening to engulf them. When she opened her eyes again, she looked at her family, their faces etched with confusion and pain. "We have each other," she whispered, her voice shaky but determined. "We can rebuild." Yet as the promise left her lips, uncertainty clouded her thoughts. What could she do to restore their lives when everything felt lost? Hope flickered like a fragile flame, barely holding on against the winds of despair. As Maria gazed into the ashes, she wondered if their dreams had truly disintegrated. But deep within, a vow began to form. She would not let the flames consume her spirit completely. Amidst the ruins, she silently resolved to fight for her family, to ignite hope once more. She turned to Javier, their eyes locking in mutual understanding. They would navigate this together, reclaiming the pieces of their lives. Maria clung to that thought, knowing hope could be both delicate and powerful as long as they faced the future together. Together they would rise. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a golden hue on the remnants of the Torres family's life. As Maria sat on the porch of the temporary housing provided by the community, she closed her eyes and tried to remember what life had been like before the fire. Memories flickered like old film reels, vivid yet painfully distant. In her mind, she saw a bright summer day, laughter echoing around the backyard as Antonio chased Lucia, who giggled joyfully, her pigtails bouncing as she ran. Maria had been there, sipping lemonade with Javier, the sunlight warming their skin while they talked about dreams. His dream to open a small bookstore, and hers to inspire young minds in the classroom. She remembered how they'd spent long nights planning their future under the stars, the world seeming to stretch out before them, limitless. Flashbacks swirled in a kaleidoscope of colors. The family gathered at the dining table for a vibrant birthday celebration, balloons bobbing in the breeze. Antonio had blown out the candles, his face aglow with delight, while Lucia clapped her small hands, eyes sparkling with admiration. That was a time when life felt safe, full of potential. Suddenly, a wave of sorrow washed over her. Maria could almost hear the warm sound of her children's laughter, mingling with the gentle strumming of Javier's guitar, the songs he played wrapping around them like a tender embrace. But the melody was silenced, and now all that remained was heartache, a vivid reminder of what had been taken from them. Looking down at her hands, now calloused from worry and hard work, she thought about how much she missed those simple moments. Could we ever find that joy again? She wondered silently. Her heart sank further, but she forced herself to remember that even in the ashes there were roots buried deep, parents who raised her with love, dreams taught to believe in, and a family that had weathered storms before. Just then, Lucia's bright voice called out, pulling Maria from her reverie. "Mommy, look!" Maria turned to see her daughter holding a charred toy horse, its plastic melted but still somehow standing. An unexpected smile crept onto Maria's face as she knelt beside Lucia. "For you found it," she said, taking the small object in her fingers. It was just a toy, but it represented so much more. A connection to their past, a reminder of childhood innocence. "Can we fix it?" Lucia asked, her voice full of hope. Maria's chest swelled with pride. "We can definitely try. Just like us, it can be renewed," she replied, her voice steady despite her sadness. The thought of restoring the broken toy sparked a small flame of resilience inside her. As they worked on the toy together, Javier came out, his presence a calming force like always. "Evening, ladies," he said, a hint of exhaustion in his tone. With an inviting smile, he joined them on the porch, his guitar resting in his lap. The sight of it soothed Maria's soul, anchoring her to the roots of happiness they had cultivated as a family. "Why don't you play us something?" Maria encouraged gently, hoping to coax the spark back into his eyes. Javier hesitated. "I haven't been inspired to play since everything happened." His voice trailed off, and the weight of his admission filled the air between them. "Maybe you just need to play for us, not for anyone else," Maria said, her heart aching for him. "Remember how it made you feel, it still can." Taking a deep breath, Javier nodded, fingers trembling as he plucked the strings with care. A gentle melody filled the air, weaving through their hearts, stitching up the frayed edges of their spirits. The notes floated around them, wrapping them in a cocoon of warmth and nostalgia. As the music flowed, Maria watched the tension begin to ease off Javier's shoulders, his voice melding with the chords, reminding her of the boy she fell in love with. These moments were sacred, the family woven together again by simple notes and heartfelt words. Antonio wandered outside, drawn by the music like a moth to a flame. He stood transfixed, absorbing the sound that filled the evening air, a spark reigniting in his eyes. "Can I join you, Dad?" he asked, hope flickering in his voice. "Of course, buddy. Find a beat with your palms on that old crate," Javier replied, a grin breaking through the initial reluctance. As Antonio joined in, beating a rhythm that matched his father's strumming, Maria felt their home come alive in a different way, through music, laughter, and community spirit. It was a reminder that even in obscurity, ties could be strengthened and new dreams could take root. Lucia, inspired by the sounds, picked up her crayons and began drawing on a piece of paper she found nearby. Her innocent scribbles took shape, an explosion of colors that reminded Maria of vibrant sunflowers swaying in a field, their faces turned toward the sun. In that fleeting moment, Maria realized the power of music, art, and family, how they intertwined, even in their darkest hours. They were forging new dreams together amidst the ashes, vibrant colors splashed across the canvas of their lives. And with each note that Javier played, Maria felt a little more of that happiness return. She understood that while they were starting anew, the roots of who they were could never be consumed by fire. Through nurturing their family bonds, they would learn to grow yet again, no matter how long it took. Tonight was a beginning, a promise for renewed dreams and a brighter future that lingered in the air like the last echoes of a beautiful song. In the weeks that followed, life began to reshape itself for the Torres family. Living in the small community center presented its challenges, yet Maria felt a budding solidarity with her children. Each morning she rose early, preparing breakfast in the bustling shared kitchen, surrounded by the scent of fresh coffee mingling with pan-fried eggs. Mornings turned into moments of connection, as families shared stories over steaming mugs at communal tables. One day, while stirring her coffee, Maria struck up a conversation with Rachel, a warm-hearted woman who had lost her home to flooding. "I believe this moment in our lives shows us our strength," Rachel said, her eyes bright with resilience. "What life has taken, we can build anew." Inspired by Rachel's words, Maria decided to reignite her own voice through songwriting. She pulled an old notebook from her belongings and opened it, revealing pages filled with forgotten ideas. The first line she penned, "Through ashes we rise," felt both significant and healing. Meanwhile, Javier began to bring his guitar to the center more often, transforming the sorrow around him into music. With each song composed from their shared experiences, he captured themes of loss and resilience. Soft melodies began to echo through the halls, drawing residents together like moths to a flame. One evening, Maria and Javier took to a small makeshift stage in the community hall to perform for the others. The room buzzed with anticipation, and as Maria felt the weight of nervousness lift, she leaned into her children. "Let's do this together," she whispered. Javier strummed the first chord and Maria let her voice rise, filling the air with their story of love, struggle, and the journey back to hope. As she sang "Through Ashes We Rise," she felt the audience connect, caught in a wave of shared emotions. The applause that followed filled her with warmth, igniting a spark of purpose she hadn't felt since the fire. With each passing week, Maria's and Javier's performances turned into an open invitation for community music nights. "Music is a safe place for healing," Maria suggested to Ms. Jenkins, the welcoming center supervisor. "We should host weekly gatherings." "Absolutely, let's spread the word," Ms. Jenkins replied, her face lighting up with excitement. As the music nights unfolded, attendance blossomed, transforming the community hall into a vibrant space alive with talent. Local musicians offered their gifts, and each week filled the air with melodies of every kind. Antonio found a joy in rhythm, tapping beats on a crate, while Lucia delighted everyone with her impromptu dance routines. That night, as Maria observed her children participate, pride swelled in her chest. They were finding their voices, healing through creativity. The music connected not only the family, but also those around them, strangers who shared scars, weaving a tapestry of resilience that radiated warmth and hope. One night, as the final notes lingered in the air, Maria felt the last remnants of sadness lift. Instrumental tunes washed over the room, and she realized how far they had come from those early days of despair. This community was not just surviving, it was thriving, aiding each other in rebuilding shattered lives. Antonio approached her, beaming. "Can we play again next week?" he asked, a hint of eagerness in his voice. "Of course," Maria replied, heartened by his excitement. As they wrapped up the evening, Maria glanced around the circle of friends and newfound family members, all laughing and sharing stories, their faces illuminated by community spirit. Something precious had flourished from the ashes, the strength to face life's uncertainties together. Each note they played and every song they shared was symbolic of their journey, a testament to resilience forged from loss. Maria smiled, feeling gratitude envelop her. Together, they were not just overcoming hardship, they were creating something beautifully renewed. In that moment, surrounded by music, laughter, and familiar faces, Maria realized their journey was just beginning. A symphony of hope played on, echoing through the hall, assuring her that they would continue to rise united no matter what lay ahead. As the weeks turned into months, the music nights at the community hall blossomed into a cherished tradition. It became a vibrant gathering that drew not only displaced residents but also neighbors seeking connection. Maria felt her heart swell with pride each time she watched her family take the stage. Antonio, who had once been withdrawn, now tapped out rhythms on a crate with abandon, while Lucia effortlessly twirled in her colorful dresses, captivating everyone with her joyous spirit. With each gathering, they seemed to shed layers of pain. Maria marveled at how the music created a bond, encouraging everyone to share not just joy but also sorrow. One evening, after a particularly uplifting performance, Maria broached a new idea. What if we each share a piece of our story tonight? Javier nodded thoughtfully, stroking his chin. That could add depth to the night, he reflected. We're all in this together, and sharing could strengthen our connection. That week, they transformed the music night into a sharing circle. Maria set up chairs in a circle, the mood feeling electric with anticipatory energy. With the first story shared by a man named Miguel, who had lost his shop in the fire, the atmosphere shifted. Maria felt her breath catch. Each word Miguel spoke echoed her own fears, and her heart ached with shared understanding. As each participant revealed their pain and hope, a powerful energy thickened in the air. The music took on new meaning, no longer just entertainment, but a vessel for their struggles, transforming sorrow into collective healing. When it was Maria's turn to speak, her hands trembled as she recounted the heart-wrenching day of the fire, the profound loss that followed, and the small flickers of hope that began to emerge through music. Her voice, a soft tremor, resonated with the audience. Though we've lost so much, we're also discovering the strength within ourselves and each other, she said, her eyes glistening with emotion. The threads of our stories weave a tapestry of resilience. As her words washed over the crowd, applause erupted. Not the kind reserved for performances, but a heartfelt appreciation for vulnerability shared. In that moment, an invaluable connection tied them all together, unraveling emotions that had sat stagnant for far too long. The following weeks revealed further layers of vulnerability as more individuals opened up about their lives. The music nights had transformed into a refuge, a space for healing and understanding. Maria felt grateful, yet aware of an unspoken heaviness remaining in the room. One evening after a well-attended concert, Maria found herself on the porch of the community center with Javier. The night wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. "What's weighing on you?" Javier asked gently, noticing her distant gaze. "I love our music nights, but I sense there are still stories untold," she confessed. "Some voices are still quiet, and I want to help them be heard." Javier nodded thoughtfully. "Healing doesn't follow a timeline. Each person has their journey, and we must nurture a space where it can unfold comfortably." Maria breathed in the night air, letting his words settle. She understood that while they were creating a strong community, each individual experienced healing at their own pace. Gazing at the stars, she found solace in the notion that they were all in this together. The arrival of summer inspired another idea in Maria. "Let's hold a neighborhood concert in the park," she proposed one day. "It would celebrate our resilience while inviting the broader community to join us." "Absolutely, I love it," Javier responded, excitement sparking in his eyes. "We can show everyone how far we've come." After weeks of preparations, their vision came to life. The park, adorned with colorful banners, buzzed with energy as families arrived to join the celebration. As night fell and the stage lit up, Maria's pulse quickened. She looked around at the gathered crowd, an array of faces, some familiar, some new, all drawn together by the power of music. Their concert opened with an upbeat song filled with hope, and Maria felt the audience's energy carry them through each note. Antonio's confidence shone, while Lucia captivated the crowd with her performances. It was a beautiful celebration, a testament to their journey through pain into brightness. Halfway through, Maria stood at the edge of the stage and turned to the crowd. "Tonight is about more than just music. It's about healing and community." Her voice rang out with conviction. "Every story shared strengthens this tapestry we're creating together, and I invite each of you to take part in this journey." As more musicians took the stage, sharing their own songs and sentiments, Maria floated through the crowd, absorbed in the enveloping warmth. Laughter and conversation intertwined with the music, creating a patchwork of connection and remembrance. As the night wore on, she marveled at the transformation taking place. The weight of their sorrow was beginning to dissolve amidst the new stories and shared experiences. The community was actively engaged in supporting one another, and it filled her with hope. After the concert, as families packed up and shared hugs, a woman approached Maria. "Thank you," she said, her eyes shining. "You've brought us together in a way we never thought possible. Our stories matter." Touched, Maria felt tears prickle her eyes. "You matter too," she replied earnestly. "This tapestry is made stronger by each thread, and that thread is you." As Maria returned to where Javier stood, they exchanged knowing glances. They had ventured into uncharted territory together, and even though challenges remained, it was becoming clear that their journey was becoming one of collective strength and empowerment. That evening, as they sat outside in the calming breeze, Maria realized how far they had all come. Love, friendship, and unyielding resilience had sprouted from their shared adversity, and she felt hopeful for the future. They were stepping into new chapters, continually learning that healing is not a straight path, but rather a kaleidoscope of stories woven together. The music flowed, their village of survivors united in harmony, proving that even in the darkest times, light could be found. One song, one story at a time. As summer waned and autumn approached, the light filtering through the trees cast long shadows across the community. Maria felt a sense of purpose swelling within her, invigorated by the strength of their shared music nights. Yet, as the days grew shorter and the crisp air settled in, she couldn't shake the undercurrent of anxiety that clouded the horizon. The vibrant gatherings had birthed a spirit of unity, but beneath the smiles lay unaddressed fears about securing stable housing. Families were beginning to fragment under pressure, bracing against uncertainty. At the next music night, Maria stepped onto the stage. The familiar thrill of connection mingled with a growing sense of urgency. The room felt different, An electric tension hung in the air as laughter sporadically fizzled out, leaving a somber stillness in its wake. Javier took to the mic, his gaze sweeping over the assembled crowd. "We've faced challenges before, and music has always brought us together," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of their situation. "But tonight, we face another struggle. We can't let uncertainty fracture this community." Maria felt the stirrings of unease shift in the room, the palpable tension reflecting the anxiety that tightened everyone's shoulders. "We need to turn our stories into action," Javier continued. "Let's harness all that we've shared, use it to advocate for ourselves and reach out for help." At his words, the crowd began to murmur, anxiety mixing with a flicker of hope. Maria stepped forward, her heart quickening. "We've shared our stories. It's time we gather them to take a stand," she urged passionately. "Every voice counts. Together, we can create change." In the days that followed, Maria and a group of dedicated families organized writing workshops, crafting a space for people to share their experiences. They met at the community hall, where laughter and tears mingled amidst the exchange of powerful narratives. Each story felt like a piece of a puzzle coming together. Julia, the local schoolteacher, offered to compile everyone's testimonials into a booklet that could represent their journey. "We'll create something true, something that captures the heart of our experience," she said, her enthusiasm spreading like wildfire. Weeks turned into a flurry of activity as families bared their hearts, sharing tales of resilience amid hardship. Yet, not all stories came wrapped in warmth. Some were laced with deep-seated pain and loss. Maria often found herself sitting quietly with individuals, creating an inviting space for vulnerability. Healing took various forms, but ability to express their truths was a necessity. One chilly evening, all felt heavier than usual. Maria found Antonio on the porch, his brow furrowed as he stared into the distance. "What's going on, buddy?" she asked gently, joining him on the worn steps. He sighed, curling his fingers around the railing. "Everything feels overwhelming," he confessed. "What if it doesn't change anything? What if our voices aren't heard?" She placed a reassuring hand on his back, feeling the weight of his concerns resonate within her. "Change is slow, but every voice, your voice, counts," she said, her conviction tender yet firm. "We're building something beautiful together. It's okay to feel doubt, but remember, we're here for each other." Their conversations often returned to the echoes of shared burdens, and as their booklet came closer to completion, Maria felt an urgency building inside her. The unveiling would not only reveal their stories, but symbolize their collective hope. Finally, the day of the unveiling arrived, sunlight pouring into the community hall as families began to gather. Despite the festivity in the air, Maria sensed an undercurrent of anxiety. The question loomed, would their stories resonate? Standing next to Javier, Maria clutched the beautifully crafted booklet that bore the reflections of their journey. "Thank you all for gathering today," she began, her voice rising above the din of conversation. "This booklet represents our resilience, a mosaic of our community's journey." As she unveiled it to the crowd, the room grew quiet, anticipation thickening the air. Slowly they turned the pages, absorbed in the accounts unfolding before them. In the stillness, a woman stood up, her voice trembling yet empowered. "I have a story too," she called out, her eyes wide with urgency, "and I believe it's time for us to demand change together." Applause erupted, a wave of encouragement cascading through the hall. Maria's heart warmed as more individuals rose to share their histories, stories flowing freely, like the music that had once united them. They connected through pain and joy, revealing layers of their existence that revealed the heart of their community. This was no longer only about personal hardship. It became about lifting each other in shared humanity. In the following days, their stories captured public attention, resonating within the larger community. The local newspaper featured many personal accounts, illustrating the genuine need for support. Maria found comfort in seeing their stories touch hearts beyond the confines of their hall. Maintaining the momentum fueled the community's hope. They began organizing outreach efforts to contact local organizations that could offer assistance. Their journey was not just about voicing concerns, but taking actionable steps toward tangible solutions. One evening, after a particularly productive meeting, Maria returned home glowing with inspiration. She found Antonio poring over the booklet, his earlier heaviness lifted. "Mom, look," he exclaimed, pointing to a picture of their music night, alongside a story of a family overcoming hardship through community support. This shows what we can do together. Her heart swelled with pride. "Yes, Antonio, this is just the beginning," she said, the warmth inside her kindling a spark of excitement for the future. Through every story shared, burdens were being eased, and they gathered strength anew. While the fights would continue and obstacles surely loom ahead, the knowledge that they were not alone in their struggles was profound. Maria recognized that they were no longer just a fragmented group coming together by chance. They had grown into a resilient community, united through their willingness to share truths and extend a hand to one another. Stepping out onto the porch once again, she gazed at the horizon, painted in shades of twilight. The dimming light mirrored the path ahead, unknown, yet filled with promise. Their journey had transformed into a beautiful testament to the strength found in community, and together they would continue to rise, harnessing the power of their stories and the brightness that could emerge from the toughest of moments. One song, one story at a time, they would push forward. The vibrant autumn colors began to fade, and winter's chill crept into the small town. The holiday season was approaching, a time usually filled with joy and celebration. Yet this year an underlying anxiety brought a sense of heaviness. Maria felt the pressure of the cold air matching the concerns in her heart, and it threatened to stifle the community's renewed spirit. Maria and Javier organized a holiday concert, believing it could serve as a beacon of hope through the uncertainty. "Let's come together with our music," she insisted to the planning committee. "It's a chance to connect, share love, and amplify our call for support." As the date approached, excitement bubbled within the community, but it was curbed by the cold realities they faced. Families continued struggling with housing, and despite their efforts, responses from local organizations were slow to come. The weight of waiting bore down on them, creating an atmosphere fraught with tension. The night of the concert arrived, and Maria felt a mix of anticipation and worry. The community hall, adorned with twinkling lights and decorations, buzzed with activity. Yet Maria noticed some familiar faces were missing. Families that had previously filled the hall with laughter were notably absent. She glanced at Javier. "Do you think everyone is okay?" Javier nodded slowly, concern lining his brow. "I've reached out to a few families. Many are feeling the financial strain more than ever. Some have to work late shifts just to make ends meet." As the concert commenced, the crowd filled the hall with love and warmth, voices mingling in a beautiful harmony. Musicians took the stage, each sharing poignant songs that captured the essence of their struggles and dreams. Maria felt the music healing the wounds of despair, but still the absence of some families loomed in her thoughts, giving her cause for concern. After one particularly heartfelt song, a round of applause erupted, and Maria stepped back from the stage, sensing an impending decision weighing heavy in her heart. The evening continued as planned, but as conversations swirled around her, she could feel a shifting unease. When the final act concluded, Maria stood at the edge of the stage, a bright smile masking her worries. "Thank you all for coming together," she called, her voice resonating with warmth. "Let this concert remind us of our strength and unity." As the applause faded, a hush settled over the audience. An unexpected figure at the back of the hall drew Maria's attention. It was Lucia, a once vibrant member of their community whose absence had created an aching void. But as Lucia stepped forward, Maria's heart sank. Her eyes spoke of hardship, and the frown etched deep into her face revealed the weight she carried. "Maria," she began, her voice trembling, "things have gotten really tough for us. The stress and uncertainty are overwhelming." Maria's heart raced. She stepped forward, enveloping Lucia in a warm embrace. "I'm so sorry you're struggling," she whispered. "Please, lean on us. We're all in this together." Lucia replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how much longer I can hold it together. I love this community, but food and shelter are an everyday battle. I feel like I'm losing hope." The weight of Lucia's words hung in the air, and Maria felt the reality of their situation crashing down. "You're not meant to carry this alone," she assured, but doubt lingered just beneath her optimism. As the evening wore on, Maria watched as families mingled, exchanging hugs and words of encouragement. She yearned for a way to rekindle the fire of hope, knowing the full dynamic of their struggle affected everyone. Days turned to weeks, and the sentiments expressed at the concert began to weave into her thoughts. The community, while supportive, was increasingly burdened by despair. Maria decided they needed to take a step back. "We've got to regroup," she expressed at the next planning committee meeting. We need to acknowledge the real issues affecting our families, she continued, urgency threading through her voice. People are struggling, and we need to create a plan that goes beyond just music nights. Let's reach deeper. Javier leaned forward, taking in the gravity of her words. What if we organized support circles? A chance for families to talk about what they're facing. We can curate resources and invite experts to provide tools for wellness and advocacy. Yes, and we can share the realities of our situation with more urgency, Maria added, her heart racing at the idea. We need to utilize what we have, the strength of our community, to drive those conversations. As the planning unfolded, they managed to coordinate a series of meetings where families could come together, share their challenges, and learn how to navigate the complex systems that could assist them. Each meeting started slowly, laden with trepidation as families shared their struggles, housing insecurity, untreated ailments, lack of consistent work. While the truth was hard to bear, it also forged a new understanding, a connection deeper than any musical note could express. They mourned together, the absence of laughter, of safety, and they began to reshape their resilience in response. Still, it wasn't without setbacks. As the harsh winter brought storms, attendance waned, and those who needed support most seemed more withdrawn. Lucia's family reported escalating difficulties, and others felt the ice of despair forming barriers around their hearts, just as the snow blanketed the town. One late evening, Maria found herself poring through the gathered testimonies in the community archives. The words swirled around her, tales of falling down yet rising again. It imbued her with hope, reminding her why they had started this journey in the first place. She had to rally their spirits one last time. The next meeting, Maria stood before a crowd, her heart a whirlwind of emotion. "Thank you for being here," she opened, her breath shaky but resolute. "I know it's hard right now, but I want to remind you, every time we come together, we fuel a flame of hope. We are not alone in this, and there is strength in our stories." A wave of understanding rippled through the gathered families. As discussions began, individuals shared resources, brainstormed solutions, and even found humor in their shared burdens. Slowly, walls began to dissolve, loneliness transformed into camaraderie, and hope flickered back to life. As they left that night, Maria felt a renewed certainty. The journey ahead was steep, but with unity, they would find their footing. There would be more challenges to face, and the harshness of winter still loomed ahead. But for every setback, they would build a foundation of support that transcended individual struggles. Together, they would emerge stronger, one song, one story at a time. Winter settled heavily over the town, yet within the community hall, warmth and hope warmed the chilled air. After weeks of sharing their stories and facing their struggles together, the atmosphere was charged with possibility. Maria felt a sense of anticipation wash over her as she prepared for the final meeting of the season, which promised to be a beacon of hope amid the ongoing challenges. The hall buzzed with energy as families gathered, eager and ready to connect. For this meeting, Maria had invited Clara, an advocate from a local non-profit specializing in housing support. This was not just another meeting, it was a chance to ignite their collective resolve. As Maria stepped to the front of the room, she surveyed the crowd filled with familiar faces. "Thank you for being here tonight," she began, her heart racing with purpose. "Every one of you has contributed to this community, and together we can continue to thrive." Clara followed with a reassuring smile. "I'm here tonight to share that your stories matter. They hold the power to change lives. Together we can forge connections that will lead to real support for our families." As Clara spoke about available programs and resources, the audience listened with rapt attention. Individuals shared their apprehensions, expressing the worries that had weighed them down for months. Lucia, her voice firm yet vulnerable, spoke up. "What if we don't qualify for assistance?" Her question cut through the air like a knife, revealing the collective fear many shared. Clara responded with empathy, assuring them that even those struggling the most had options available. "Keep pushing for what you need, and remember, you are not alone." After Clara's talk, the meeting transitioned into lively discussions. Families began brainstorming ideas, sharing resources, and relaying success stories. They laughed together, a comforting sound that echoed in the hall. And as they spoke, Maria felt the energy shift. Despair was giving way to a renewed sense of hope. Camaraderie began to take root. As the evening came to an end, Maria stood to speak again, her heart swelling with pride. "Let's harness this energy," she urged, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to continue advocating for each other, backing our voices with action and unity." Weeks of renewed activity followed. Families took it upon themselves to engage with local officials, sharing their stories and rallying for support. Maria marveled as faces that had once been filled with uncertainty transformed into expressions of determination. Lucia, who had once felt alone, stood at the forefront, advocating for her family and others. As spring approached, the community prepared for a festival, a celebration of resilience. The idea blossomed into a vibrant gathering, where families could share their music, stories, and love for one another. On the day of the festival, sunlight poured warmly over the gathering. The once hushed community now roared with life as music filled the air. Maria felt tears of joy prick her eyes. This wasn't just a celebration, it was the culmination of their journey together. As dusk approached and laughter mingled with melodies, Maria stood on stage taking it all in. Every face before her symbolized the strength forged through shared experiences. "We've turned our struggles into a symphony of resilience," she said, her voice rising above the joyful noise. "Together we have turned our hardship into hope, one song, one story at a time." With every chord played and each tale told, Maria knew healing was not merely an end goal, it was a continuous journey they would walk together. As families joined hands and danced beneath the vibrant sunset, she felt an unbreakable bond weaving through the community. No longer just a collection of individuals weathering storms, they were a united force, ready to face the challenges of the future. In this moment, they were not just surviving, they were thriving, emboldened by their shared stories and the unyielding power of togetherness.